Faygoluvers.net with one of the best damn wrestling sports commentators to date, the one and only Kevin Gill. This is part one, ninjas.
Yo, man, it's an honor to have you on, dude. Like, you're just one of those legendary commentators, you know.
Well, thank you, brother. Faygoluvers has shown nothing but love, and anytime I could do anything with Juggalos, anything with Faygoluvers, anything with the Psychopathic universe, you know what I'm saying? I am diggy down.
Right. Yeah, man. Let's get into the start of your early career. How did your early life in Queens, New York, influence who you are as a wrestling commentator?
Oh man, I think my days in Queens, New York influenced everything about me. You know what I mean? I'm proud to be from such. I don't know if it still is, but there was a long time where Queens, New York was the most diverse city or borough in the United States, because it's a true melting pot of all people and cultures and whatever. And even though I was pretty sheltered or like straight and narrow in my earliest days, like once I discovered crazy music and wrestling, wrestling first, but then the crazy music and all this stuff, it just opened up doors to go anywhere, to meet all these different people and experience all these different things. And I feel like just having that sense of unity among all people, and just that streetwise kind of knowing what's up with stuff and knowing who's who and what's what, and being able to read people's good intentions or bad intentions or whatever, multiplied by the gift of gab, I think all of that plays a part into not just my life but also my commentary.
Let's see, if you had to choose a specific Battle Royal match from any past wrestling event to describe your career as a whole, what would it be and why?
Oh, wow.
I know I put you on the spot there.
Well, that's definitely an unusual question, man. Like any career, and then if you're trying to do something like me, it's amazing. I get to work with ICP, I get to work with Psychopathic and Juggalo Championship Wrestling, but also great companies like All Pro Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Revolution, Underground Wrestling Alliance, Gold Rush Pro Wrestling, and hopefully a few more coming soon. So it's amazing to be able to do all that stuff, but like anybody else, I'm just like in your favorite independent rapper or whatever. Until I someday, maybe knock on wood, get some big deal somewhere, I'm just another independent person out there grinding, and anyone who follows me on social media or whatever knows, like, everything's got its ups and downs, its highs and its lows, but some wise people have always told me that when you feel like giving up is when you're really closest to breaking through. So I think life is a lot like a battle royal, because you're going to be on the ropes a lot. You're going to be grappling and struggling and all that stuff. But I would hope if my career could be any battle royal, to be honest, I would love it if my career was somehow represented by this amazing battle royal that happened at the Gathering of the Juggalos, which I've seen a million battle royals in a million places, including the birthplace of battle royals and Royal Rumbles and all that here in San Francisco at the Cow Palace. But for me, the ultimate battle royal I ever saw was a battle royal that Vampiro put together and produced, literally, to take you behind the curtain for the Gathering of the Juggalos. This was several years ago. I forget which one. And he had done the JCW training camps by day, and the battle royal was made up of all trainees, all students, from people with no experience to people with a little. And it was the damn most exciting battle royal I've ever seen. Everybody got to shine a little bit, in their way. Nobody was exposed. Like, you never found out, oh, that guy can only do one move, but you just saw him do the one move at the perfect time and then get eliminated, and you're like, oh. So to me, if I was going to be involved in a battle royal, I'd love it to be like a magic one like that, where it means so much to the people in it, and it means so much to the audience, because they know they're watching Juggalos in there get their battle royal on, and it's not people going through the motions. It's not people that are like, shit, I got to drive 6 hours to do this again tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's all fresh and exciting and in a unique atmosphere.
Yeah, dude, you can't argue with that, man. Vampiro, one of my favorites back in the WCW days. Him and Sting matches were dope. Always liked those when those two came across together.
Hell yeah, man, that was the best.
Now, when exactly did you know? Because I know you love music, man. When exactly did you know you were obsessed with music, and which 3 records from any genre helped you through your own personal struggles the most?
Oh man, that's a tough question. Music is a huge part of my life, and there's so much music that that I love. It means a lot to me, and there's a lot of records that are like kind of like go-to records for different feelings or but 3 records. Again, this is a question I can answer it different on any given day. One record that means a lot to me and helped me through. It wasn't the worst times; it was great times, but they were challenging times, and that was the time of when I was making the Backyard Wrestling video game. I live here in San Francisco, and IDOS Interactive used to exist and be here in San Francisco. So it used to take like 45 minutes, but I could walk to work every day. And it was like just enough time that I could listen to the complete Rancid album, Indestructible. And it would just fire me up so much, and I would just listen to it. And sometimes I would just even be singing along because I didn't give a fuck. And it just those opening lyrics, like, and I know I'm indestructible. Like, it would get me literally fired up. It was like Iron Man putting on his suit to go into a world of corporate bullshit and politics and bad leadership. And, there was good leadership too, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I would use that to kind of prepare for battle. You know what I'm saying? And I would listen to it literally every day. Another record, man, there's some, let me think. I'm torn between Dark Lotus's Opaque Brotherhood and the Wraith Hell's Pit and the Wraith Shangri-La. I mean, I would listen to those records a lot, like hundreds and hundreds of times for dealing with various stuff. And, man, it's so hard. Like, there's so many groups, like groups like Sick of It All and the Gorilla Biscuits and Leeway and Murphy's Law and, like, all the ICP stuff. And other groups, you know what I mean? And some groups have like one album that I love and that's it. And other groups like the Sick of It Alls or the Rancids or the ICPs, they have, or the Beastie Boys, you know what I mean? They have that catalog. And then maybe that's who my third group would be. Maybe going back to the younger days would be the Beastie Boys' License to Ill, because that was just an interesting, you know what I'm saying, time in my life being a young person trying to come up and trying to make his mark and being influenced by all these different things. So it was cool to know that long before I got super into hardcore music and hip hop and all this shit, that the Beastie Boys were super into it and kind of crossing those worlds over. And it was years later, in fact, just a few years ago, that I found out when Rick Rubin was working on that first License to Ill record with the Beastie Boys, he used to have the Beastie Boys call. They used to have a daily WWEF, as it was known then, WWF hotline you would call for like 10 cents, and it would be a pre-recorded message from like Roddy Piper or Lou Albano, and it would just be insanity, them just going off. But I used to call it as a kid, and Rick Rubin had the Beastie Boys call it to just learn the art of bullshitting, like to learn how to cut a promo, to learn how to, you know what I'm saying? You take something out of nothing and then captivate someone for 60 to 90 seconds or whatever. And I thought that was so interesting that they were listening to a lot of Roddy Piper and Lou Albano promo. So shout out to the Beastie Boys. But again, Bad Brains, so many groups, the Cro-Mags, Agnostic Front, NWA, Nuclear Assault. Like, I could literally, music is like my life, man. I love music, and putting together game soundtracks is one of the funnest things I ever did, because I got to mix like my knowledge of music and my taste, but also with being able to feel like this is the right song for the right game, or this compilation, this, you know what I'm saying? It all kind of comes together.
Right. And yeah, I agree with you too on Beastie Boys. Rick Rubin had a hardcore punk band too called Hose. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, you know how you spell garden hose? Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you might be able to find that on YouTube. I'm not sure on that. But
damn, I didn't even know that. What's crazy to me is when I first discovered the New York hardcore scene, I had no idea like what it was. Like, you would just, I went to see Sick of It All at CBGB's at a hardcore matinee, and I knew who Sick of It All was, but I hadn't heard them yet. Their first album had just dropped. And I thought for sure I was just going to get beat up or robbed or whatever, because it was in the worst part of New York City, like a real dangerous area called the Bowery, which is funny because that's why they always announced Raven as from the Bowery, because it was like just the shithole of New York City. But I didn't get beat up and I didn't get robbed, and I just found instead like, wow, in a way, all these damaged people are being joined together and kind of being healed and unified by music and finding a community and a sense of brotherhood and a place to belong and all that. So that helped get me through all my like turbulent younger years. And then by the time I discovered ICP for myself and got to listen to them, I was drawn right into it in the same way. And some people are like, oh, how could you like sick of it all and ICP. Like, you're an idiot. And it's like, I'm not an idiot. I'm diverse, man. I think both of them are geniuses in what they do, and both of them bring a lot of people together. So to me, that's one good thing about music. When it hits you, you feel no pain. You know?
And ICP's invited punk bands to their Suicide Machines has played with ICP quite a few times.
Yeah, Suicidal Tendencies has. A lot of people have.
Yeah,
No Redeeming Social Value, a band I used to be in, they opened for ICP in New York City for a Rocks Off concert.
Yeah, so people need to like understand, music is, it can go anywhere.
Right, and that's what was so cool, was that all these worlds coming together, and then all of a sudden you have the Beastie Boys' License to Ill comes out and becomes like the biggest selling rap album of all time in its day. The whole world is captivated by these people, and they're breaking all the rules. They're white guys, they're rapping, but they have credibility, and they have this certain like edge to them, and that edge was from being from the hardcore scene. So that's what got me into hardcore, really, was the Beastie Boys, because I was so into them that then you'd go to Tower Records in Manhattan, and there'd be this other Beastie Boys record that looked like, it didn't look as fresh as License to Ill, but it was called Pollywog Stew. And it's like, the Beastie Boys, huh? And then you get it, and it's very primitive hardcore punk rock, but then the names on the back are mostly the same, and it's like, how can this be the same group? And then, through a friend, I met the people from, the drummer from Ludacris, which is another hugely influential band, and all of a sudden, then I'm like, I'm kind of getting an ear for this music, you know what I'm saying? It was just a really cool thing for me. I encourage anybody, if you've never heard, there's so many facets and flavors to hardcore, and some of it can sound very abrasive if you've never heard anything before. But if you've never heard anything before, man, go get a record by the Gorilla Biscuits called Start Today, and just listen to that record and read the lyrics. And if you can't relate to that, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean?
Right? Or another band, 7 Seconds.
Oh fuck you, dude! 7 Seconds are geniuses. You know what I mean? If we can walk together, why can't we rock together? And I would be remiss to mention 7 Seconds without shouting out H2O, who I feel are like the 7 Seconds of a new generation. Even though 7 Seconds never went away and is actually going to be opening up for Rancid and the Dropkick Murphys next month.
Oh wow, that's gonna be a great show. Now, can you dive into deep detail, if you can, on your first wrestling commentator event and what you learned from it?
Yeah, the first time I ever commentated on professional wrestling was at the Los Angeles Convention Center during a trade show called E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, which is like a video game industry trade show. And to promote the Backyard Wrestling video game, I booked, I got a ring, and I got a bunch of wrestlers like M-Dog Mac Cross, who everyone sees now in Lucha Underground as Son of Havoc, Super Dragon, the genius behind Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Madman Pondo, a whole bunch of people. I'm forgetting a bunch of names right now, but we had a bunch of people down there to do. Oh, Josh Prohibition as well, and we did a 2-day tournament to crown the first Backyard Wrestling champion, and it was awesome because I got to book the tournament, obviously, like who's going over and what are all the brackets and what are the finishes. It was a big deal, but I wasn't planning on doing any commentary. So match 1 goes out, and I was the ring announcer. So I announced the match, and the guys come to the ring, and they're killing it. They're awesome. But the crowd is like video game industry executives and buyers, and they don't know how to react. Like, so they're not cheering or booing. They're just kind of like, wow, in silence. So I'm like, man, these people kind of need a little spark. And the match is only maybe a minute or two in. And I look at my friend Annie Meltzer, who's like running the event with me, or she's like running the event and I'm doing the wrestling part. And, she's running the overall thing. And I go to her, I'm like, and right as I start to say something, she starts to say something. And we both basically say, it's like it needs commentary or something, And then we're both like, yeah. And then I'm like, should I do it? Because I wasn't trying to, as they say, be a mark for myself and then be like, oh, not only am I putting the whole event together, but now I'm going to talk on the microphone during the whole event, But she's like, no, you should do it. So I started calling the match, so to speak, and trying to educate, the stuff commentary does, like educating people as to what's happening or why it hurts, or giving them the appropriate cues sometimes where it's like, oh, look at him, he's cheating, that's disgusting, you know, and then people will be like, wait a minute, he's cheating, you know. Sometimes they need a little light, you know. So I basically did commentary all day at this tournament for 2 days, and I was really happy with myself. I was like, wow, man, that was really cool, because like I fucked around doing commentary just while I'd go to a show and I would just kind of do it for my friends, but that was the first time I was like, man, I could maybe really do this, you know. But then, you know, I was working at a video game company, and I had literally just started there not that long before either, so it was then nose to the grindstone for the next bunch of years, and I was just working on video game stuff. But working on the video game stuff led me to be connected with ICP, and ICP and Vampiro trained me to be a referee with the help of Man Pondo, which was amazing. And then just from getting to be friends with those guys, that led to me getting more commentary, getting the commentary break, so to speak, which was to work with ICP on all the JCW stuff. So all that happened just in kind of a whirlwind. And the one thing that happened in between Los Angeles and working with ICP was there was a great wrestler from the Bay Area of San Francisco named DJ Riz, and he was part of a team called the Suburban Commandos, rest in peace. And he was a great guy. He was one of the first people to become friends with me when I moved to California from Queens. And we had even gone to some WWE shows because WWE used to love me and always send me tickets. Now, not so much. But we all would hang out and stuff, and he was always great. And he tragically died. I found out I was on my way to the gathering when I found out. And then when I got back, I wanted to do something to honor his memory. And I was thinking about doing a show, but his friends, you know, they had the idea of doing a show, which is great. And I was like, well, they're doing the show. They're his friends, you know. I was like, maybe I can just add on something. So I was like, all right, you guys are having a complete show and it's a tournament. What if I just bring in a camera crew and production and we just shoot your show and then I'll do commentary on it and put it out? And they were down with it. So I did that, and it was me and Lars Fredrickson from Rancid did the commentary. And then I showed that to Joe and Joey, ICP, and I didn't know what they were going to say. I was kind of embarrassed to show it to them, and I was like, I wonder if they'll think this is any good, but they thought it was really good, and then here I am today doing a Faygoluvers interview, you know?
Yeah, man, you are really, really busy, man. I see you plugging away all the time, and, you know, you got a really great show going on, man. And, you know, let's talk about the 18th annual gathering of the Juggalos in Oklahoma City. You know, you're going to be live for the very first time from the gathering, you know. Can you describe how thrilled you were when you first found out it was approved to be live, and why should your fans absolutely tune in?
Man, it was such an honor, man, to have the Kevin Gill Show live at the 18th annual gathering of the Juggalos is literally something I never thought would happen. Like, last year I was kind of like, a few people said, like, man, how come we're not doing a KG show at the seminar tent or whatever? And I was like, oh, maybe if people just, I always tell people, just mention it to Jump Steady, you know, Rob Bruce, and see what he thinks. And I think this year I actually got up the courage to, one time when Rob called me, I just threw it out there, like, hey, what would you think about this? And he was kind of like, well, he just asked a series of quick questions, like, oh, well, like, what would that entail? Like, how long would it be? This, that, and whatever. And then he's like, oh, let me think about it a bit. And then he just let me know, like, yeah, we're going to do it, you know? So to me, I'm just so honored. And it's the first podcast ever to be done at the gathering. You know, it'll be broadcast live on Psychopathic Radio, psychopathictv.com. But it'll also be released as a traditional podcast on my iTunes and Audio Boom and Stitcher and SoundCloud and all that. But for me, just anything to do with any of this, the fact that I am friends with ICP and Jump Steady and the Rude Boy and DJ Clay and Hoodoo and all these people, that we get to travel the roads and go around the country and do all this amazing stuff is it's surreal to me. It's hard to believe that it's true or that it's real, because it's literally a dream. You know, I think ICP are like two of the most hilarious and talented people that I've ever met. And then when I'm hanging out with them, they'll be like, damn, KG, you're hilarious. And it's like, what the fuck is going on here? How could the funniest guys I've ever met think that I'm funny, you know? So it's the feeling is like no other, man. And I hope we really capture some magic. We got a 2-hour slot, and we're going to have a different guest come through. Instead of being like one guest for the whole time, we're going to have different people pop in. And I hope people really enjoy it. It's an honor to be associated. And I know that, in a day and age where people who, in the same way I came up with New York hardcore, it made me who I am. Today, I have nothing but love for New York hardcore because it made me who I am. But it seems like that's an old school philosophy. Nowadays, people hate on and shit on whatever made them who they are because now they're better than that. But that's not who the fuck I am. Do you know what I mean? So to me, hardcore and that world is just as important in my life as ICP and the Juggalo world is. Do you know what I mean? So to be a part of it is just a mind-blowing, humbling honor. And the love and the camaraderie that I get with the Juggalo family, man, when you're just there at the gathering and you're meeting people and hearing their stories, it's beyond words, man. It's really, I feel, I can't even express the gratitude and the love I have for every Juggalo. You know what I mean? And I'm just grateful that Psychopathic put so much faith and trust in me, and I'm still running with the hatchet. Even if it's cool to shit on where you came from or to betray your homies or whatever, not my style, never will be. You know what I mean? If that's cool, then I'll be uncool. You know what I'm saying? And look out for my friends the way they look out for me. My friends look out for me like family, is what the song says,
Wow, that's a very deep answer, man. Wow. The Washington, D.C. March against the FBI, the Juggalo March that, Insane Clown Posse announced at the gathering last year. Why is the Juggalo March important, and your true thoughts on the FBI labeling Juggalos a gang?
Man, I think in short as I can say it, I feel like the march is important because people's rights are being infringed on, and rights are the only thing we have, and it seems like there's always someone trying to take them away in some fashion. But the idea that law enforcement and government officials would declare people to be gang members based on their affinity and love for a certain music or a certain band is outrageous. It's un-American. It's unconstitutional. You can ask the American Civil Liberties Union if you don't believe me, and there's no precedent for it. The Grateful Dead had thousands of people that made a full-time living following them around on the road, selling drugs in the parking lot. Technically, that's like an interstate drug ring. That's you know what I'm saying? That's like almost a mob, or whatever you want to call it, like RICO statutes. You know what I mean? I'm not shitting on the Grateful Dead. I think Grateful Dead are a positive thing. But I'm just saying, literally, people did literally travel from state to state selling acid and every product to support living on the road and watching the Dead. Oakland Raiders fans, are they a gang? I just think it's ridiculous. And it's even worse because then there's people that serve our country in the military and they have to cover up their tattoos or have their tattoos removed or get discharged from the military. Sometimes covering it up isn't enough. They just want you out. People have lost custody of their children because they listen to Insane Clown Posse. You know what I mean? Just the idea that we live in America and it's 2017 and people are having these 1950s level paranoia and stuff. And it's just a sad state of affairs. It's a sad state of commentary on our government. And I also think it points out what a visionary Joe Bruce, Violent J, and everyone at Psychopathic is, because it was last summer that they announced this march. And at the time, we didn't even have as bad of a situation as we have right now. Look at the world today. Look at the world versus how the world was last summer. You know what I mean? So thank God Violent J called for this shit to go down when he did. And I hope the world stands up for it, because in this world, it's cool for every musician, artist, and writer will stand up and say, I think it's wrong that Pussy Riot was mistreated in Russia. You know what I mean? We stand for Pussy Riot. Well, God bless Pussy Riot, but they live in fucking Russia. Do you know what I mean? Where they don't actually have the rights that we have. Here at home, people's rights are being infringed on, but because Insane Clown Posse isn't cool, because Juggalos aren't hip and they're not at Coachella, it becomes a joke to people and it doesn't need their support. You have people like Michael Moore, who's a brilliant filmmaker and does all this pro-Detroit and pro-Michigan stuff. He hasn't even sent a single tweet on the subject to bring attention to the cause or whatever. And it's just outrageous that, people's lives, their careers, their families can be shattered and destroyed. They can be put in prison for extended terms because now they're gang members committing crimes. And the whole thing is just preposterous. And I I just hope that everyone supports the march, because that's what it's all about. It's just simply letting the world know we're human beings and we have rights. Think about it. If you don't stand up, and some people are like, well, shit, Ninja, I have a hatchet man on my car. No one's ever pulled me over. Well, good for fucking you. You know what I mean? But there's hundreds and thousands of people that aren't so fortunate. And once they get done with Juggalos, who's next on the gang list? You know what I mean? So I think it's in everyone's best interest to stand against tyranny and stand for freedom for people. It doesn't matter whether you're Juggalo, black, white, handicapped, gay, transgender, Native American. It literally does not matter. People have inalienable rights in this country, and if you see someone infringing on those rights, you have to stand up. That's how I feel. And fuck anybody who tries to discredit how important this march is. You know, because that's what it's all about. There's no profit in it. The profit, so to speak, is everyone benefiting from better treatment, from the issue being raised to higher levels. Can you imagine if this gets talked about on CNN or Fox News or wherever, and it gets that attention? You know what I mean? What if a lawmaker stands up and says, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that to those people? You know what I mean? That's what I think it's all about. It's getting awareness for the cause, because we are an underground community and we're an insulated community. So the outside world doesn't know a lot of what goes on in our world. You know what I mean? And people spend their entire lives like writing stupid shit on Facebook, but they won't spend a day to march with their brothers and sisters? Fuck out of here.
Wow, yeah. Oh, background applause, yeah. Great answer, man.
It's got to be done. And for me, I mean, look, I'm a commentator in JCW. And the moment I knew of that march, I'm going to be there. No one's paying for me to go there. I'm paying for myself to go there. I'm going to go, and whatever I could do in terms of hosting or whatever they need done, I'm going to do. I'm not going to be paid for it. I'm going to fly myself there. Why? Because it's to benefit others. That's what it is. And I'm a very small cog in the wheel. You know what I'm saying? I'm a very small piece of the puzzle. There's people way bigger pieces of the puzzle that seem to have some sort of ethical issue with being there. And to me, the only ethical issue is for people that aren't there, because if you're not there, you're not supporting. And I understand some people are not in a literal position. They're literally not able to physically attend, and that's fine. But you could still support it. You could still be positive of it. I just wish, the one thing I wish I could see change is this culture where the idea is slowly being accepted that like being a troll is a thing, or being like a useless piece of shit that does nothing, literally has no accomplishments, that no one loves, so to speak. But your thing is, whenever something good's going on, you're there like a wet piss-stained blanket getting thrown over all the fun. You know what I mean? It's just bullshit. Support what you love, ignore what you hate.